Yo, what is going on YouTube? This is your boy Kamen Zero Spike back again once again today, people. Today I am so excited, so very excited. But before we get into it, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good jazz, and yeah, let's get into the video. And I'm very excited to be here to talk about with you guys Kamen Rider OOO's 10th. Yeah, Kamen Rider OOO's 10th core metal resurrection. Oh god, big name. But this movie basically wrapped up everything in Kamen Rider OOO's series as a whole. And yes, very sad ending. This basically makes sure that we most likely won't get anything Kamen Rider OOO's for a very long time, unless we get a new OOO's or AG's descendant or anything like that. But yeah, this movie basically ends kind of the opposite way the actual series ended. But we'll get to that in a second. So basically, it starts off right off the bat with fighting. Like basically it feels like a part two. It feels like how the Kamen Rider 01 movie was, where we're just thrown into the action, like just thrown in there with basically them fighting. Basically, we had Autoto fighting Eden right then and there. But basically we start at the final boss. But it basically starts off with basically how these people of the city have basically created a resistance, and we see that they're fighting against the greeds. All the greeds are back. The big main greeds are all back. We see it's all of them, all four of them, and we see like sort of a makeshift kind of like resistance against them. It also kind of felt like the resistance against Omagio. That's what it really felt like, because they said the entire world was in shambles. And I'm just sometimes when these movies happen and stuff happens all over the world, basically they say the world, but I wonder, like, what are the other writers doing? Like, any of the other writers helping or anything like that? Well, this wasn't a crossover movie or anything, but at the same time, it makes me think sometimes, like, what are the other writers doing if this is happening, especially Forza? Like, what is Forza and OOO's? Like, they kind of go hand in hand because they're right next to each other. So I'm wondering, like, is Forza do it? Like, did he help or do anything? If it was a crossover movie, we most likely would have saw that, but at the same time, we didn't. This is all OOO's based. So basically, we see like a makeshift resistance. Basically, we see Ankh has came back to life, but he doesn't know how he's come back to life or anything like that. He goes into the city to see that the resistance is fighting against all the greeds. He's asking all these questions. You see that why are the greeds back? Where is AG? He sees the king. We see the first OOO's of the king. He comes up and he's talking about how is AG. He's like, why is AG doing that? That can't be him. Stuff like that. And we see that everybody's there. The whole entire original cast is back. And, they try to fight out. They're trying to fight off the greeds and everything like that. And they're drastically losing. And we end up seeing that everybody, we see that Ankh basically, he possesses Shingo again. He and his brother. And we see that they basically go back to the resistance base. We see Data-san and Kota-san, they're back. They're both back. They still have like their core metal blasters, stuff like that, because they're still birth. Basically, they're both still come out of birth. We see that since we see everybody's there and everything, Ankh is pissed. Ankh is pissed off, like, what's happening? How did the world end up like this and all that crap? You see why is the king back and stuff. So we get a classic happy birthday, and he comes up on the screen. I'm so sorry. I hate that I've forgotten these people's names. I have only remembered a few people's names, but I hate that I've forgotten so many people's names. But the president, he basically comes up and basically gives Ankh the rundown of what has happened. Basically, he gives him a rundown of what's happened. The king has come. Basically, the king has been revived. He started ravaging the entire world till he basically took over the world. He ended up bringing back all the greeds, and he tried to but he basically has been revived, and he brought back all the greeds and basically took over the world. And we see that Anka asks, where's Eiji? Why didn't Eiji fight? You see that Eiji did fight. Eiji inevitably really got his butt whooped, and Eiji ends up getting his butt whooped. And when he's bleeding out and stuff, we see the king tries to go and kill a little girl, and he goes to the little girl and jumps in front of her, tries to save her. And when he saves her, we see Eiji is basically gone. He gets blown up in a crowd of smoke. But before that, we see that Ankh did talk to Eiji. And he was there during he was like there in the wreckage of like everything being destroyed and stuff, but nobody else saw him. But nobody else could nobody else saw him. Like nobody else saw that he was there in the wreckage. But he basically told Ankh that, hey, this is how the world is now and stuff. And he ends up following him to the forest, and he basically tells him that, oh, hey, he doesn't tell him anything that happened. He said, hey, this is how the world is now. And he says, hey, I'm over here hanging out in this abandoned building over there. And that's what Eiji leaves. That's when Ankh goes and talks to everybody. He gets the rundown of everything that's going on. So we get there after he's got the rundown of everything that's going on. He basically goes, he tells everybody that Eiji is basically still alive, and in there everybody's wondering like, why has he come back and stuff like that. So he takes the medals that they already had. When they take those medals, he goes, and him and Hina, they go and try to find Eiji. They go into the forest and they find Eiji in this abandoned building. It turns out he basically tells them that, he's like, yeah, I've been, after that whole thing happened, I stayed in this abandoned building. I've been healing myself and trying to rest up and stuff. And it's like an abandoned building. He has a big bed and all that stuff in there. He kind of living lavish. I want a room this big. But, after that, Hina asks him, hey, Eiji, what about that kid? He said, what about that little girl that you tried to save? And she was like, oh, she died. And the way Ankh starts to, see he starts to be like, what's happening? He's like, he's like, Eiji was like, oh, she died. I guess it was just her fate. And Ankh is really weirded out by this. He's really weirded out about that because Eiji wouldn't say something like that. Because in the beginning of Kamen Rider O's, we see that Eiji feels really bad that he he tried to save a little girl and she died. But this time it just seems like Eiji really didn't care. Well, he cared, but he didn't care the way Eiji would care. So he also looks and he also is able to sense something coming out of Eiji. He senses there are three core metals inside of Eiji, and after that, we end up seeing all the greeds, all four of the greeds. They're basically hanging out in this like an abandoned bar, and that's when they talk about different stuff. Like the greeds really don't do anything. Like the greeds really, they didn't do anything at all in this movie, like at all. Like we saw them like fighting in the beginning, like fighting off the resistance and stuff, but they barely get any lines and anything like that. They're just here. And they're basically just taking orders from the king. They're very, taking orders from him. And the king comes up and says that, hey, a new greed has been born. And they're talking about Ankh. And what happened? He says, hey, the king is like, I need his core metals to get stronger. And what was his name? The green bug that basically you get Tatakiriba from. He goes up and says, I'll go get him. I'll take his medals, stuff like that. And he goes off to go find Eiji. They talk for a little more, and that's when Ankh, he starts to feel really weird around. He starts to feel really this weird presence around Eiji. And after that, we see that they end up getting attacked by him. I'll call him Tatakiriba because I can't remember his name. But they get attacked by him, and Eiji gets ready to fight him, and he tells Ankh, says, hey, give me some medals, I need the medals. And Ankh gives him the medals, but Eiji's acting really weird, like he's like happy fighting him, and he's beating the crap out of him for some reason. And he acknowledges that, why is O so strong? He said, why are you so strong? What's happening? How are you beating me like this? And while he's beating him and stuff, it turns out he's like, oh, hurry, give me some more medals or whatever. And he gives him some more medal. He basically gives him some more medals, and he ends up turning into, well, Ankh is like, no, I'm not giving you anything. And then he ends up taking Tatakiriba's, he takes those medals from him and turns into Tatakiriba, and completely decimates him, makes a bunch of clones and has like a rapid rider kick on him. It basically beats him, has his green core medal in his hand, and he basically is like, oh, okay, well, since you're still alive, I might as well just go ahead and break your core medal right now. He gets ready to break his core medal, and that's when Ankh stops him, and that's when they figure out that there is a greed that is there's a greed that's possessing Eiji's body. We see that Ankh actually sees that there's three core medals inside of Eiji, and we see later on that there are three bugs. There are basically three bug type core medals, and we see that we get the name of this. He figure everything out, and they get the name of this greed. And whenever he transforms basically into like he's possessing Eiji like how Ankh is possessing Shingo. So he doesn't have like a greed. Ankh has a greed form, and we do see that form. We see his full body form in this, but we see that we don't ever see his full on greed form. And this greed that's possessing Eiji, his name is Goda, and Goda is basically possessing Eiji. He's and Ankh is like, I've never heard of a greed named Goda. And basically we see that the president tells him that, he is a man-made greed, and his desires are built off of Eiji's desires. So Goda swears up and down that he's a good guy and stuff. Like, he swears that he's a good guy. He swears that, he can portray Eiji all the way through. He has all of Eiji's memories. He can portray Eiji's voice. He can look exactly like him. I mean, he is possessing his body, but he can look exactly like him. When you're talking to Goda, when like he gets purple highlights in his hair and his eyes turn like bright yellow, like a yellow, and his voice gets deeper, stuff like that. But he has all of Eiji's memories. He knows all of Eiji's desires, all that stuff, and he's actually able to do that. And he basically tells Ankh hey, you can work with me, and stuff like that to take these guys out. And I'm trying to fulfill all of Eiji's desires. So Ankh ain't with it, but he has to be. Ankh is like, I don't care. He's like, keep my name. He literally says, keep my name out your mouth, which was very funny to me. And after that, we see that they ended up Data-san and Gato-san, they end up talking to Goda, and basically telling him that, hey, if you if you betray us, you're gonna get hell. You're gonna receive a lot of hell. And he's like, I'll keep that in mind. So it's like no one trusts Goda at freaking all, because he's a greed. He's one of the stronger greeds. He's not a monster, the weak kind of greed. So we actually see that Tatakiriba, he goes back to the base and stuff, and that's when the king is like, there ain't gonna be he's like, I'll beat him next time. And the king's like, there is gonna be a next time for you. And he basically absorbs him, takes all of his core medals, and then he ends up doing the same thing to the rest of the greeds. So I'm just like, this movie isn't that long, but I was like, why did you even I just feel like they didn't do anything, because they didn't get any solo fights. They didn't get any really any type of dialogue or anything with any of the other characters. But I guess that's because if you watch Kamen O's, you already know these characters in and out. So we've seen their original deaths and stuff like that. So it kind of but they're kind of just here. But at the same time, I want to see them do more and act and be better and stuff like that. So after we see Hina and Hina talking to Ankh, stuff like that, and you have some flashbacks and memories of stuff, talking about I'm really glad that we're all back together and stuff like that again, and I hope we can hold hands together again, stuff like that, and it's cool. And then he basically, she talks about how is Eiji like really gone? He's like, no, I don't believe. He's like, no, I don't believe Eiji's really gone, because your brother Shingo, he died and came back to life at one point. So I feel like there's still a part of Eiji that's still inside of there. That's, and I'm just gonna use Goda to basically get that out, basically get Eiji back. And Goda hears this and he's like, oh, so who's gonna use who, huh? I felt like, because a part of me did feel like Goda was kind of maybe good, but you really can't trust like Agreed. So for a while, when they actually do fight the king, I also wanted to see what the king looks like. We never saw the king. We never saw what the king looks like, and he's defeated, rather quickly. We never see what the king actually looks like. We just hear his voice, and his voice sounds a lot like Omagio. Just gonna say that, but he was like a big evil king, and like I just wanted to. I'm glad we got dialogue between him and Ankh. I'm glad we got dialogue between him and Ankh, but other than that, like he didn't really do anything. I was like actually kind of weirded out about that. But at the same time, we see that him and Ankh have their little debate. They talk about stuff. He asks Ankh to like give me your medals, stuff like that. And when that happens, we see that him and Goda hinges up in the O's. He gets beat the crap. He has the absolute crap beat out of him. We see the return of Rata. That's the really only form we see. We see Tata Kiriba, we see Rata, we see Tajador, but like a new form of Tajador. But we don't see any other forms. We don't see, Sargozo, we see Putotera. We see Putotera, but we don't see like Sargozo, and we don't see like, Bawakawadi or anything like that. We don't see any of those forms. But we do see Tata Kiriba, Rata, and Putotera, and no Tajador form. That's really about it. But we see that they ended up defeating the king. Well, we see that he ends up being defeated. Or we see Goda ends up being defeated because he tries to turn into Rata and attack him, and this when the king like overall just mollywops him. We see that he's trying to take away Golda's medals, but that's when Ankh jumps in front of him. Ankh gets absorbed inside of the king, and then that's when Ankh he starts taking all the medals out of the king's body and basically throwing them. He takes 3 of the Putotera core medals, gives them to Goda. Goda transforms into Putotera and ends up defeating the king. And that's really it. Like the king, and also Ankh gets all of his medals back. He gets all of his core medals back. So now he's his full self again. So while he's his full self again, we see that they ended up defeating the king, and all the medals that he's stolen are still inside of himself. All his core medals are still inside of himself, so he's chilling. And that's when Goda sees all these medals floating in the air, and he's like, He's like, I could fulfill all of Eiji's desires if I had all that power. I want power. And that's when he basically absorbs all of those core medals. He absorbs all those core medals, and he gets huge. Like he turns basically in some purplish kind of rider form, and he starts mollywopping all over freaking Ankh. He starts fighting Ankh, and that's when Data-san and Gato-san, they come in and they transform into Birth and Birth X. Now Birth X looks dope, but it didn't do that much in this fight. We see that he can like transform like different parts of himself to be like different weapon attachments and stuff like that. But he looks absolutely freaking cool. It's just that he didn't do nothing. He did him and regular Birth, they were just that basically there as distractions or whatever. So we see that now that Goda has been like powered up and whatever, we see that he ends up leaving Eiji's body, and he's still stuck in that like riderish form. And that's when Eiji basically comes back, but AG basically comes back, but he's super weak. But then that's when Ankh ends up possessing him, and we get like a Ankh AG fusion, and it looks really cool. I like how he has Ankh's arm. He has like the black and blondish hair. It looked cool, and we see they're talking to each other inside of each other's mind and stuff. And he's like, we can defeat him and stuff like that, but I know this will kill me and stuff. And that's when AG tells him that this is my final battle. Like, this is the end for me. I need you to help me. And that's when they end up transforming into Tajador Eternity. This form looks it's basically Tajador, but it's like you took a regular Tatoba and you fused it together with Tajador. Like different health. It basically has like a Tatoba kind of helmet. But Tatoba kind of helmet. You have like the fire. It's still red, but you have like the fire. You have like a rainbowish kind of green color in there. Basically, he looks how like Ankh looks. That kind of red and green and stuff. And we end up defeating Goda. And that's when that's when AG pushes Ankh outside of his body, and everybody gets there. And that's when they, still talking to him and stuff like that, trying to save him. But then that's when AG dies. And that's the part that I teared up on, because I'm like, yep, this is really solidifying everything. This is putting everything to rest. We get this when AG he dies, and wow, part of me really doesn't like the ending, but at the same time, this is putting Camarada O's to rest, and maybe someday we'll get a new O's, because that's how we get new. That's how you have to get, new O's, new Camarada O's, because they're descendants of each other. But at the same time, I hate it. I didn't like it, but I understand it. I hate it because I didn't want my favorite writer to die. He's my number one favorite writer, and I didn't want him to die, but it's over. But other than that, guys, after that, basically kind of just ends. Like, we get a slowed down version of the Camarada O's opening theme, and then we get the actual opening theme in the credits, and that's basically where it ends. No cliffhanger, no after credit scene, nothing like that. So, but yeah, this was great. I did love this. I was like very anticipating this movie, because this is my number one favorite writer, and I just wish there were some more things done. I want to see what the king actually looked like after they defeated him, and they defeated him so quickly. I want to see like more. And he really was just beating their ass. Like, he really was just beating the crap out of them. And then also when he absorbed the greeds, he got a new form that basically looked like a chimera, like an amalgamation of like all their properties and stuff. So he had like a Tatakiriba arm and stuff like that. Like, he didn't look like a monster, but he like a rider with just like a bunch of different stuff. And then his suit was basically like to a degree a recoloring of Tabashi, of the dragon form that was in that one movie. Yeah, it was Tabashi or Tamashi, but yeah, that dragon form, the one with the big, shoulder pad, claw, horn things on the shoulders. Yeah, he basically turned into, he had like an amalgamation of that. Like, he was powerful, but I just wanted to see what the king actually looked like. But other than that, guys, I really love this. Even though AG died, I really still did love this. Tajador Eternity looks absolutely gorgeous. That is a beautiful form. And Goda, he just looked weird. I feel like Goda was I wanted to see like a greed form of him, and I did feel like maybe I felt like Goda resonated more with the Putotera form or metals, because every time he transformed from looking like AG to like talking like Goda, like you would hear the Putotera screech, so I felt like, oh, this is Putotera's greed. That's what I felt like. But other than that, guys, I'm gonna see you guys next time. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay henshined.